also thank you for coming. This is our report on our work on Alcatraz starting in 1990 through this year. And I'm Roger Hothem, and we also have Brianne Brussy, who's been out there for 4 years, and Pete Coates, who are the three that are going to present today. We also really thank Bill Murphy and Sarah for their help on the project this year and in Bill's case in previous years. We cooperated with the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, with rangers and volunteers and interns and everybody else, and funding through the Golden Gate National Parks and Services, which we greatly appreciate and thank them very much for that. We had listed some of the employees. I didn't have a big enough slide to put everybody on there, so I apologize if you've been out there or helped, and the name isn't on the list. Started in 1990, Roxy Farwell was out there helping, guiding us to the island, and then a whole list of many other folks who've been assisting over the years. Of course, we all know about the popular impression of Alcatraz that most of us know it's not quite like that. It's more like that. And this is what I've used for a general audience. So some of this is redundant, obviously, because if you've been out there or work out there or whatever. But of course, the lighthouse, which is also used for perching by peregrine falcons and various other activities on the island. And of course, the military years and the prison years, and now as part of the National Park System. Why did we go to Alcatraz in the beginning? Well, in 1989, we started to do a study of contaminant concentrations in wading birds throughout the Bay Area. And you ever been like torture back? And we were doing various wading birds. This project had been done about 20 years previously, and we wanted to look and see how the contamination values were starting in 1989. So we were looking at Brooks Island off Richmond and West Marin Island off San Rafael, wherever it is here. And then we were down at Bear Island in the South Bay. And we were collecting eggs and evaluating contamination levels. And then we heard from Bill Borman, who was working on Alcatraz, that Night-Herons were also nesting there. So, gee, okay, why not look at those? So that's when we started in 1990 to look at that. Why were we even looking at Night-Herons? Because they're really good as biomonitors of environmental contamination. These are some of the factors that contribute to their usability as biomonitors. And this shows up better on the screen than it does here, but it shows how almost ubiquitous the black-crowned night-heron is as far as breeding range throughout the United States. Regarding the contamination that we are looking for, we have found some issues with eggs. We have some crushed eggs that we've found, some others that have some strange development on their shells. I took that to an expert at UC Davis with the Avian Sciences Department, and she looked at the egg and she said, you know, this is a really weird egg. So beyond that, I'm not sure what's up with those eggs. We also found some deformities, but these are the only deformities we found in 22 years. So I think that's a pretty good sign for the health of the population. The black-crowned night-heron is our primary study species, and you see on the bottom there's a website. Brianne and I just recently did a revision of the account for the black-crowned night-heron for the Birds of North America out of Cornell. So if you want to learn more about the night-heron, you can just go to that site to do that. Snow egrets are the other birds that we've been looking at on the island, and we enjoy seeing these guys and trying to compare how they are similar and some of their differences with the Night-Herons. Talk a little bit about methods. Generally, we check with the park folks and ask them if the Night-Herons have shown up about in March. Usually they come around about March, early April. And then we wait for them to get set up, start nesting. We don't want them to scare them off the island. That wouldn't be good for our research or for the birds. So after they get established, then we start visiting weekly to see how they're doing, to evaluate the reproductive success. We record the nest location. We mark the nest location. In the old days, we used to put a piece of flagging so we could find the nest again. Sometimes they're pretty hard to find. In recent years, we've used little cattle tags, maybe around 3 inches maybe, with numbers, and then try to put them at a place that will not be real visible to, say, a predator, but also so we could find it, so we can find the nest again. We record the habitat, the number of eggs and chicks, the age of the chicks, and then the nest status. We revisit these active nests weekly to determine the nest fate, for example, whether they hatched or if they were abandoned or destroyed. And then we categorize a successful nest if 1 or more eggs hatch, and a fledged nest if it survived to 15 days or more. We realize that 15 days doesn't mean that it really did fledge, but if you work with Night-Herons and you get in there and try to find them again, after 15 days it can be very difficult. So we have a cutoff date of 15 days. Here are the sub-colonies. If you know the island at all, you can recognize the different areas. Boghorn whale in the northwest end, which used to be very popular with the Night-Herons, in recent years not so popular. And some of the greenhouse, which is, I guess, more accurately noted as the potting shed house or potting shed. Hello, Daphne. How are you? Also acknowledge Daphne Hatch for the early years when she was a big supporter of our work. In recent years, I would say that the Night-Herons have focused right in this area, kind of on the south part of the island. This is what we call the tunnel. You know the island. Tunnel bush is right here. Rubble, more rubble, and then this is the agave area. So we've been looking at all these subcolonies since most of these subcolonies since 1990. We haven't looked at the shower colony lately because to see the chain link fence better, that habitat was removed. So that they don't nest there. But we did find here in the wall area, which is now mostly garden, a nest last year and this year. So they'll come back. To really get an idea of what's going on with Night-Herons, at least in the old days, we had to actually go out to the nests, get up close, and count the eggs, and then go back many times to see what happened to them. So this is unlike some species where you can look through binoculars and pretty much tell what's going on. It's really hard with these more secretive type species. A little nesting chronology. Here we have eggs that are laid every 2 days in general, and after 25 days you'll get a pip, and then you get a chick, a fluffy little chick, and eventually you'll get a lovely chick. Only a mother can have a chick. So, enough for methods. Let's look at how many nests we've actually Been monitoring over the years. Started in 1990. We had 170 nests. We were pretty surprised at that because we had previously heard there were maybe 20 or 30 nests. But when you actually get into the bushes, this is what we found. Then we had a dip for a couple of years, but in 1996, 341 nests. That's a very conservative estimate because there's so many nests. We couldn't count them all and still make the last float off the island. So we stopped at 341. Then in subsequent years, maybe coincidentally after the premiere of The Rock on the island, the population kind of dropped. And here we've dropped clear to 68 nests. And in subsequent years, we've kind of gone up and down and up and down. We're a little bit of a down trend right now. Snowy egrets, our first nests that we observed were in 1997. We had 3 nests around the tunnel bush. And since then, it's gone to 0 1 year, but after 2002, we've had a pretty good increase. We're up to 102 this year. And they're packed into this potting shed colony so much that we do not continue to visit them as often as some of the other more dispersed nests because there's too much chaos that ensues as the chicks start to run around in the nests. So this is a very conservative estimate. Every talk needs to have a really bad slide, so this is one of mine. You may think there are others that are similarly bad, but this one, this doesn't show up at all. Okay, the Night-Herons, we looked at predation, and up through about 1997, we had 3% to, here we had 19% in 91. But then in 1998, 22, 27, on up, we had a high of 45% in 2009, and this year we're standing at about 40%. So you see it's gone up. There's kind of seems like there's a breaking point right there. Percent hatched, it's gone down. Maybe coincidental with the predation. Overall, we've had in these areas. Percent fledged has not been that different. It hasn't made a huge drop over the years, but it has gone down some from the early years. Snowy egrets, we'll look at the predation rate. This year we had 3% out of 102 nests, so I guess that's about 2 nests, something like that. Average is only 4%. So snowies don't appear to be subject to predation nearly as much as night-herons. Percent hatched is not especially high, but this is what we've observed. You can see here that our unknown is as much as the percent hatched, because we don't go in there as late. And then the percent fledged is kind of all over the map here. We're fewer this year because we didn't go in as late. But if you go out there and look at that colony, there are just tons of chicks ready to fly away. Just to give you an idea of the incubation period success, you see here that it's pretty high in the early years, then about 1998, it's just not doing so well. And in the last 4 or 5 years, it's been pretty depressed. Nestling period success, however, does not show a huge decline in recent years, but it's down a bit, but it's still kind of hovering around that average. And often we'll see a nest that has 1 or 2 really big chicks, and then sometimes they just don't hatch for whatever reason. Just to give you a little idea of what happened this year, our preliminary information, the 21-year mean for predation was about 22%. This year, 40%. Abandonment has been low, despite our going in and bothering them once a week. Abandonment has always been pretty low for the Night-Herons, about 4%. This year, 12%. Unknowns, we have fewer unknowns, and that is related to the videography that we've been doing, which Brianne will talk about in a few minutes. Predation during the nestling period, I just noticed this the other day. It's about 7% for the whole, well, it should be 22 years. But anyhow, for 6.7%, this year 18%. So a lot of chicks have not done so well. During the nestling period, unknowns and abandonment are about the same. So we're talking about predation and how it's gone up, and for about the last, well, for the first 20 years, I was assuming that these guys were the culprits, the western gulls. Here we see pretty good evidence that they will take eggs. It's not really helping the cormorants to adjust, the location of their egg. But then, not too long ago, Sarah Costa gave me this photo with the raven, and that is, I thought it was a golf ball at first, but it's actually, we're sure it's a night-heron egg. So ravens have been causing problems on the island. We'll hear more about ravens from Pete and from Brianne and the impact they have. These are ravens actually up on the cell house, and below the cell house there are all kinds of little blue shells. And the blue shells are real indicative of formerly night-heron shells. Night-heron eggs. Just give you a little idea about the habitat use. This is the habitat graph, nest, percent of all the nests that we found in the different habitats. This is mirrorbush. If you know the story of mirrorbush on the island, around 2000 the mirrorbush kind of died off. It's been dying off, and it's not very abundant anymore. Especially in a lot of the colonies, the dock colony, for example, is all mirrorbush. It's not there anymore. Foghorn is all mirrorbush. Not there anymore. So what's taken its place? Here we have the lovable rubble. Rubble meaning reinforcing rods, old lumber, old refrigerators, toilets, things like that that are found in the destroyed buildings just on the other side of the gravelands. You see here that the rubble has made up quite a good percentage of the habitats for the nests. And, excuse me. This is primarily because in the rubble west area, prior to about 1999, we didn't really go up there because it was kind of scary, for one thing. And the other reason was that the night-herons didn't seem to be up there. So once we saw them up there, we went up and actually found nests. In the green is the agave, and about 2008, we got enough courage to go into the agave without armored suits, and we're able to find a number of nests in the agave. So that's made up a pretty good percentage of the nests in recent years. This is what I mean by rubble, and this is what I mean by night-heron eggs in a nest, and night-heron nest in a rubble nest. So, after 23 years of monitoring data, what does it all mean, and why should we care? That's why we have Pete here to tell us.